the moment that we've all been waiting for, at least I was waiting for, after months of build-up, Premier Rachel Notley and Jason Kenney, UCP leader, not leadership candidate anymore, actual leader, faced off in the House, first question period of the legislative session, and I've been waiting for this, and I know you've been waiting for this, Graham, Claire, Paula. What happened? Was it the fireworks we'd been expecting and hoping for?
The funny thing is, last Friday we were asking what was going to happen on Monday, and Claire said it'd be civil.
I said civility and decorum, and it was. It was actually very civil, at least the first few question periods.
Yeah, and this is Kenny has put the order out to his people, his caucus. You're not going to applaud or thump your desks. Occasional hear is okay, but
was there some hearing?
Yeah, there was occasional hear, but that's it. I made a point of saying that he will bring civility and decorum to the House. Now his questions are just as pointed, just as sometimes political, of course, but the opposition was being really, really quiet, and the government MLAs, they were applauding, they were thumping their desks. At one point, they gave Notley a standing ovation just for answering a question. But the opposition just sort of sat there very quietly, and this was Kenny saying to them, we will bring civility and decorum and none of this fake applause and fake thumping of desks. And I think this is also showing the control he has over his caucus. They're all saying yes. Also, it's just showing that the discipline he brings to politics. He's done so well the last 2 years, coming from basically outside to becoming now leader of the new official opposition, the UCP, and he's using that same discipline to take this forward. He's just moving this train forward, like 1 kilometer at a time, to the next election.
Most of the questions were kind of what everyone expected, so really heavy on the carbon tax. He hammered down on that repeatedly in multiple question periods. There have been some really great back and forths between the Premier and the UCP leader this week, especially with pipelines, carbon tax, all the issues that we've been gearing up for.
See, I have to confess here, I'm a traditionalist. I'm more conservative than Jason Kenney when it comes to how you should behave in the Legislative Assembly, and I think the banging on the desks and the hooting is part of the great parliamentary tradition of the Westminster system. And I think if you just sit there and don't make any noise, I suppose it's potentially an effective strategy if you wrong foot the government and make them look like they're overeager and immature. But I confess myself somewhat disappointed. Mind you, I am mindful of the fact that many a party leader has said that this is what they were going to do, and after about 3 or 4 weeks, it tends to unravel, because the WWF format of question period is part of its ineffable charm.
Well, what we know is this is going to be the most civil the question period will be this session, is this week.
This week, absolutely. It's interesting as well. It's question period, meaning that the opposition or regular MLAs get to question the government, the cabinet. But Notley is throwing questions back at Jason Kenney and the UCP. What's your position on climate change? Do you believe in climate change? So you got the opposition asking questions to the government, and you have Notley then just throwing questions back at Jason Kenney on the issue of climate change. And of course, 2 different arguments here. Kenny's arguing against the carbon tax, the fiscal issue, and Notley's arguing in terms of the environment and her carbon tax, part of the climate leadership plan to help deal with the climate change, and of course helping to get a pipeline built. So you see they're arguing the same topic from completely different directions.
Yeah, and Kenny had a great little quip with that in question period where he said, Premier, are you auditioning to be the leader of the opposition?
Because she was asking so many questions.
Right, and that was a great quip.